Season 4 is bringing Benedict and Sophie's romance to life. But I think that some big changes need to happen because Bridgerton isn't a one-to-one book adaptation. Tweaks are needed to make their love story work on screen. From the iconic masquerade ball, where secrets are unveiled behind a mask, to fixing Benedict's problematic behavior and keeping Posey around, these changes could make the season even better. So, how can Season 4 improve their story while staying true to its essence? Let's dive into what needs to change for this love story to truly shine. To truly hit the mark, Bridgerton's 4th season must make a few significant changes to Benedict and Sophie's storyline. Filming is already well underway, and the season is set to explore their romance from an offer from a gentleman. Fans have been eagerly waiting for this love story, especially after the overwhelmingly positive reaction to Sophie Beck's casting. There's a lot to look forward to, like the iconic masquerade ball, the charming cottage setting, and all the emotional ups and downs between Benedict and Sophie. That said, Season 4 is going to feel different from the previous ones, mainly because Benedict and Sophie's story brings something fresh to the table. But it won't be a one-to-one adaptation of the book. Since Bridgerton is a book-to-TV adaptation, some adjustments are necessary to make it work on screen. While many shows have successfully adapted books by taking creative liberties, Bridgerton will need to make some smart changes to ensure Benedict and Sophie's storyline lands well with audiences. One major change should be keeping Isabella Way's character, Posey, in the show permanently, instead of limiting her to just Season 4. In the book, Posey, who is Arminta's younger daughter and Sophie's stepsister, finally stands up to her mother and leaves her behind. Violet Bridgerton then welcomes her into the family. However, after an offer from a gentleman, Posey pretty much disappears from the book series, except for a brief mention in a second epilogue. The show now has a golden opportunity to fix this by keeping Posey around beyond Season 4. Her dynamic with the Bridgerton family could be a great addition, showing how she contrasts with her toxic birth family versus her new, more loving, found family. Since Violet treats her like one of her own daughters, it would feel like a waste to have Posey just vanish after one season. Keeping her around would add more depth to the Bridgerton household and strengthen the show's ensemble. Another important change involves how Benedict finds out about Sophie's arrest in an offer from a gentleman. He learns of her whereabouts through Lady Whistledown's column. However, since the show already revealed Penelope as Lady Whistledown earlier than in the books, the plot device won't work without her secret identity. Penelope isn't writing the same way anymore, which means the show needs a new way for Benedict to discover Sophie's situation. A better approach would be having Penelope witness Sophie being taken away and then rushing to inform Benedict herself. It would make sense for her to wait and write about it in a column, especially now that Benedict is her brother-in-law. That being said, she also shouldn't arrive so early that she manages to stop the arrest herself. Otherwise, the tension of the scene would be lost. Instead, she should see it happening just in time to warn Benedict, allowing him and Violet to act quickly and get Sophie out of jail. Another big fix that needs to happen is removing Benedict's problematic behavior from the book. The Bridgerton series has done a great job toning down the toxic traits of its male leads, like skipping over Anthony's threat to rape Kate on their wedding night and cutting out Colin's violent outburst toward Penelope. An Offer from a Gentleman is widely considered one of the best Bridgerton books, but Benedict's behavior in it is definitely questionable. In the book, Benedict asks Sophie to be his mistress, which isn't inherently bad, given the context of their relationship. However, what follows is more concerning. He repeatedly pressures her and even blackmails her to stay close to him, and when she refuses his offer, he sexually harasses her more than once. This aspect of his character needs to be rewritten for the show. Instead of making him forceful, the show should depict Benedict as someone who respects Sophie's independence and choices. A great way to do this would be to change how they keep running into each other. Rather than actively seeking her out to pressure her, their encounters should feel more organic. Instead of blackmailing her into working for Violet, Benedict should leave the decision up to Sophie, allowing her to choose to work for Violet on her own terms. That way, their love story keeps its core elements intact, but without the problematic aspects. Another meaningful change would be deepening the friendship between Kate and Sophie. In the book, Kate isn't present because she's 9 months pregnant and preparing to give birth to her second child, Miles. But based on the show's timeline, Kate's first child, Edmund, is still an infant, meaning she likely won't get pregnant again in season 4. Since Anthony and Kate are only now experiencing parenthood for the first time, it makes sense for the show to focus on that rather than fast-forwarding to a second baby. But this also means Kate needs a solid storyline for season 4. A great way to integrate Kate into the season would be by having her form a close friendship with Sophie. They have a lot in common. Both come from backgrounds where they were overlooked or dismissed. Sophie is a bastard child, while Kate grew up as the less desirable Sharma sister. They're both independent, strong-willed women who've had to carve out spaces for themselves in a world that wasn't exactly welcoming. While Penelope could also be a source of support for Sophie, Kate would relate to her in a much deeper way. Their shared experiences as outsiders, both culturally and socially, would make their bond feel natural. Mary Sharma gave up her privileged life to be with Kate's father in India, just as Sophie comes from a lower-class background but ends up navigating high society. If the show only allows Sophie to form a close bond with one sister-in-law, it should be Kate. Lastly, a big change should be how Benedict helps Sophie find work. In the book, he pressures her into becoming a maid for the Bridgertons so he can keep her close. But a much better way to show his growth as a character would be having him prioritize Sophie's needs over his own by introducing her to a different family he trusts. A great option would be the Munderes, Alice, and will have their own storylines in every season, and this would be a smart way to connect them more closely with the Bridgertons. Instead of Benedict selfishly pushing Sophie into working for his family, he could bring her to the Munderes so she has a safe place to work and live. The only downside to this idea is that it might limit Sophie's interactions with the Bridgertons. However, the show could easily work around this by keeping her involved through Alice, who could invite Sophie over regularly. Will is already close friends with both Benedict and Colin, so it wouldn't be odd for them to spend a lot of time together. This way, Sophie could still bond with the Bridgertons without being forced into their household under Benedict's terms. With these key changes, Season 4 could deliver a version of Benedict and Sophie's love story that stays true to its essence while improving the more problematic aspects. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments.